तेरा वनचारी जमुना तेरा वनचारी जमुना तेरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी 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 हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Krishna, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 11, Text 20. Na vai swapaksho swavipaksha eva. Na vai swapaksho swavipaksha eva. Parasya mrityur vishata samam praja. Parasya mrityur vishata samam praja. Tam dhavamanam anudhavantyānisha. Tam dhavamanam anudhavantyānisha. Yatarajamsyanilam bhuta sangaha. Yatarajamsyanilam uttam sangaha. Na vai swapaksho swavipaksha eva. Na vai swapaksho swavipaksha eva. Parasya mrityur vishata samam praja. Parasya mrityur vishata samam praja. Tam dhavamanam anudhavantyanisha. Tam dhavamanam anudhavantyanisha. Yatarajamsyanilam bhuta sangaha. Yatarajamsyanilam bhuta sangaha. Na vai swapaksho swavipaksha eva. Na vai swapaksho swavipaksha eva. Parasya mrityur vishata samam praja. Parasya mrityur vishata samam praja. Tam dhavamanam anudhavantyanisha. Tam dhavamanam anudhavantyanisha. Yatarajamsyanilam bhuta sangaha. Yatarajamsyanilam bhuta sangaha. Na vai swapaksho swavipaksha eva va. Parasya mrityur vishata samam praja. Tam dhavamanam anudhavantyanisha. Yatarajamsyanilam bhuta sangaha. Na vai swapaksho swavipaksha eva va. Parasya mrityur vishata samam prajaha. Tam dhavamanam anudhavantyanisha. Yatarajamsyanilam bhuta sangaha. Na vai swapaksho swavipaksha eva va. Parasya mrityur vishata samam praja. Tam dhavamanam anudhavantyanisha. Tam dhavamanam bhuta sangaha. Na vai swapaksho swavipaksha eva va. Parasya mrityur vishata samam praja. Tam dhavamanam anudhavantyanisha. Yatarajamsyanilam bhuta sangaha. Word for word. Na, not. Vai, however. Swapakshaha, ally. Asya, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vipakshaha, enemy. Eva, certainly. Va, or. Parasya, of the Supreme. Mrityoho, in the form of time. Vishataha, entering. Samam, equally. Prajaha, living entities. Tam, him. Dhavamanam, moving. Anudhavanti, follow behind. Anishaha, dependent living entities. Yata, as. Rajamsi, particles of dust. Anilam, the wind. Bhutasangaha, other material elements. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his feature of eternal time, is present in the material world and is neutral towards everyone. No one is his ally and no one is his enemy. Within the jurisdiction of the time element, everyone enjoys or suffers the results of his own karma or fruitive activities. As when the wind blows, small particles of dust fly in the air, so, according to one's particular karma, one suffers or enjoys material life. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original cause of all causes, he is not responsible for anyone's material suffering or enjoyment. There is no such partiality on the part of the Supreme Lord. The less intelligent accuse the Supreme Lord of being partial and claim that this is why one enjoys in the material world and another suffers. But this verse specifically says that there is no such partiality on the part of the Supreme Lord. Living entities, however, are never independent. As soon as they declare their independence of the Supreme Controller, they are immediately put into this material world to try their luck freely, as far as possible. When the material world is created for such misguided living entities, they create their own karma, fruitive activities, and take advantage of the time element, and thereby they create their own fortune or misfortune. Everyone is created, everyone is maintained, and everyone is ultimately killed. As far as these three things are concerned, the Lord is equal to everyone. It is according to one's karma that one suffers and enjoys. The living entity's higher or lower position, his suffering and his enjoying, are due to his own karma. The exact word used in this connection is anishaha, which means dependent on their own karma. The example is given that the government gives everyone the facilities for governmental action and management, but by one's own choice, one creates a situation which obliges him to exist under different types of consequences. The example given in this verse is that when the wind blows, particles of dust float in the air. Gradually lightning occurs, and then torrents of rain follows. And thus, the rainy season creates a situation of varieties in the forest. God is very kind. He gives everyone an equal chance, but by the resultant actions of one's own karma, one suffers or enjoys in this material world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So today we will speak, of course, a little bit on karma, because that's what the main passage or the purport is about. And I thought it be fitting to first describe the principle of karma and how perfect it is. I can give a few examples. One example that always made great meaning to me is plants, for example. Like sometimes we think plants are living entities, but how are they going through their karma? Of course, we know they have to suffer, right? But what kind of enjoyment do they have? What kind of pleasure do they derive, right? And so we can see just in a simple example, for example, plants on that side, right? They get sun all day, they get beautiful, right? So from sunrise to sunset, they're getting full light. But maybe on this side, there's another plant that's in the shade under someone's terrace that has to suffer. Doesn't have proper water, doesn't have proper light, is barely growing, takes many, many months for him to get anywhere. And when he does get somewhere, what happens? He gets cut, right? So that's the karma of that plant, that he has to suffer like that. And it's the karma of the plant over there, living nicely as a tree. He gets to grow his whole life without being disturbed, right? He just grows, and then when he dies, he gets cut down. So depending on each living entity's karma, he's born exactly where he's supposed to be, to the exact millimeter, right? Like today, I'll probably go and cut the grass. All of that grass, it was their karma that they're born in that situation where they get cut every, once a week. They get cut, and then during the winter, they're covered with snow for how many months? Completely, squashed. So it's the karma of that particular plant that was born in Germany in that exact millimeter, in that space, because he had to suffer that certain type of lifetime. Right? So that's how perfect the karma system is. If it was not meant to be, that plant wouldn't be born right there. You give an example of different animals, right? Animals are born in so many different parts of the world and have bodies befitting their certain karma that they have to suffer. But depending where they're born, they live different kinds of lifestyles. Some dogs are nicely taken care of. You see dogs nowadays, it's ridiculous what they go through. Thousands of dollars worth of equipment, and they even have strollers for dogs now, and dresses for dogs, and special food for dogs. And then you see a dog on the street in India somewhere suffering from leprosy and famine. He's starving, eating all kinds of garbage. What is the karma of that dog? So that dog is going through that. Right? So it's the perfect arrangement of karma that the living entity is born exactly where it's supposed to be. And as pointed out in this lecture, in this purport, that God is not being partial. The Lord is not being partial in choosing that this living entity enjoys such a life and that living entity suffers. No, it's all by our own arrangement. It comes to my mind the first time that Sachinandan Maharaj met Srila Prabhupada in the lecture, right? He asked a question that he thought was very intelligent, and he said, if God is all good, why did he create Maya? Because Prabhupada gave the lecture on Maya. And so we all have to suffer due to Maya, Prabhupada was talking. And so he said, if God is all good, why did he create Maya? And Prabhupada immediately shot back and said, God didn't create Maya, you created Maya. And he gave no purport. That was all he said. And Satyanananda Maharaj fully understood, and he was like, yes, it's a perfect answer to my question, right? God isn't creating Maya. He's not creating our reactions. He's not creating our karma. We are creating it by our actions. And God has simply made the rules and regulations, the way it works. Just like the government, Prabhupada gives the example. And what's interesting is Prabhupada gives the example of the government because in the word-for-word translation, the translation for living entities, the word that's used is prajaha, which means citizens or people who are in your kingdom, who you're responsible for, right? So Vyasadeva so perfectly put that word, prajaha, which means citizens, someone you're responsible for, you're caring for. And so God, he's caring for all of us. And how does he care for us? By making a system by which we can live in this material world. If we do good activities, we live a certain kind of life. If we do bad activities, we live in another type of life. You imagine a country in which bad people and good people get rewarded equally, what would happen? Why would anyone do anything good? Why would anyone strive to do anything better? If you could just go steal someone's money instead of working for it. If you could just go steal someone's property without getting any kind of karma for it, any kind of castigation or punishment. Right? So God, he made the system, and it's a perfect system. And we have to simply understand that and then surrender to it. And in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada so clearly points out, and Krishna points out, that the different levels of karma, right? We have karma yoga, sakam karma yoga, akam karma yoga, right? All the different, and then finally bhakti yoga. The way in which we can gradually get ourselves out of this cycle of karma. Prabhupada points out so clearly that there's good karma and bad karma, but both are bonding to this material world. We don't want any kind of karma. We don't want good karma. We don't want bad karma. Right? There in a lecture on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 11, Srila Prabhupada, it's a little bit lengthy, but I thought I'd read it. Prabhupada is speaking about how the inevitability of action and reaction in this material world and how we should strive for something higher. So he's saying, now economically, 50 years ago, the value of money was greater. At that time, 50 years ago, we were purchasing, say, ghee, at most 1 rupee per kilo. 50 years ago. This is Prabhupada speaking 50, so for now it's like almost 100 years ago. 1 rupee per kilo of ghee, right? At most 1 rupee per kilo. So now you cannot buy first class ghee, and even the low quality ghee is at least 25 rupees per kilo. And that's during Prabhupada's time. Now you can't get ghee for even 250 rupees per kilo. It's 310, 320, yeah? Slower, sorry, okay. But now in India, you can't find ghee, even low quality ghee, for anything less than 280, 300 rupees per kilo. And that's just 50 years. It's, 100x the price. So that means, in other words, that people are getting more money. Formerly, one servant was engaged, 10 rupees or 12 rupees per month. And now you cannot get a servant unless you pay 100 or 200 rupees per month, Prabhupada's saying. Right? So in that comparison, everyone is getting more money, but still the condition is the same. Condition is the same. This will go on. Even if you get more money, the other circumstances will force you to remain in the same condition as you were 50 years ago, because you are destined. This is called destiny. You cannot change your destiny. That is not possible. Right? So even if you think, okay, I will get a lot of money and I'll be happier, but still you'll be suffering from some other circumstance. Right? In theory, yeah, previously people were making 1 rupee a month. Now we're making, 10, 15,000 rupees a month. But our situation is the same. We still want more money. We still want more food. We still want more housing. We still want better condition. If you have a bed, you want a better bed. If you have a car, you want a better car. If you want food, you want better food. Everyone is still suffering from the same 3 conditions of life. So Prabhupada is pointing out, this is your destiny. Right? Therefore, Bhagavata says that do not try to change your destiny. Everyone is trying to change their destiny. I am poor man. I must be a rich man. But you cannot change your destiny. Tasyaiva heto pratateta kovido nalabhyate yad brahmatam uparyadha. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.18. In this world, we are, every one of us, are bound up by the laws of karma. Destiny. We have got our destiny. So much happiness, so much distress we must have. Because of this mixture of happiness and distress, here you cannot have unadulterated happiness. That is not possible. Unadulterated happiness, real happiness, can be achieved in spiritual world, not in the material world. So certain amounts of happiness and certain amounts of distress we have to enjoy and suffer. You cannot change it. This is the law of nature in the material world. So I checked this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam that Prabhupada quotes here, and the translation goes that persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end, which is not obtained even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, Patalaloka. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in course of time, just as in course of time we obtain miseries, even though we do not desire them. So in Bhagavatam, the point is being made that in this material world, you will suffer and you will enjoy inevitably through the process of time. And so why waste your time trying to endeavor to change something that cannot be changed? Better spend your time trying to achieve something that's beyond this material world, beyond Brahmaloka. And that is Krishna consciousness. Right? But that does not mean that one becomes inert, right? As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, right? Inaction is not the solution. Perform your action, but without desire for the result. Offer whatever you do unto me. Right? So that doesn't mean we go lay in bed all day and don't do anything and expect that we will get food, we will get resources, we will get money. No, we must perform our duty. As a brahmachari, you have a duty. As a grihastha, you have a duty. Everyone has a duty they're supposed to perform to be able to live, to be able to practice the Krishna consciousness. But you do it without attachment for the result. And therefore, you're able to focus on what is more important, Krishna consciousness. Yeah, you still endeavor, you still give it your 100%. But you do it without attachment for the result. Yeah? In another discussion, Prabhupada was talking with one Dr. Patel. Prabhupada points out, I'm just looking for it, it's quite lengthy. Anyway, the discussion is going that they're talking about karma. And the Prabhupada is pointing out that in this material world, everything, doesn't matter what it is, good, bad, doesn't matter what you do, it's material. And it's sinful because you're using Krishna's resources for yourself. You're using someone else's property for your own enjoyment. He says, until you connect what you're doing with Krishna, good or bad, it is considered material. So the doctor was arguing or asking about how karma works and how if you're performing good activities, how that's still bonding. And Prabhupada said, because you're not using it for Krishna's service. Until you use it for Krishna's service, there's no way out of this constant bondage of material life. Back and forth, you will have to be born to enjoy the reactions of your previous birth. You gave someone 100 rupees, Prabhupada describes, it's 4 times, just as a general thing. So it's a loan with interest, he describes it. I give someone 100 rupees, in my next life he'll have to give me 400 rupees, right? And I'll have to be born again to enjoy the results of that 400 rupees that I gave in charity. So how do we not be born again to take on this good or bad reactions? Is simply by ending the cycle of karma. And this is so nicely described in Brahma Samhita, right? Yastvindra gopa matavendra mahotsva karma bandhana rupa falabhajana matanoti karmani nirdahati kintu chabakti bhajam govinda bhadi purusham tamaham bhajami, right? I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who burns up the roots of all fruitive activities, of those who are imbued with devotion and impartially ordains for each the due enjoyment of the fruits of one's activities. Of all those who walk in the path of work in accordance with the chain of their previously performed works, no less in the case of a tiny insect that bears the name Indragopa than that of Indra, the kings of heavens. So it's describing the Indragopa worm. The Indragopa insect is so small, it's like micro size. You need a microscope to see it. So from that Indra to the topmost Indra, everyone is suffering the bondage of this world. And so in this verse, Brahma is describing that Govinda, he destroys, right? He burns up all your karma from millions of lifetimes that you're supposed to continue suffering as an endless chain. He cuts it, and you're no longer connected to it once you surrender to him and offer the reactions of your work to him, right? There's that other, it's written by a beautiful, it's in Braj, there was one saint, and he wrote a beautiful sloka describing Krishna. And it goes, Braje prasiddham navanita chauram, gopangananam chatukula chauram, aneka janmarchita papa chauram, chauragraganyam purusham namami. Which means that in the Braj area, right, there's a butter thief. There's a boy who's a butter thief. And he also steals the minds and the hearts of the gopis, right? He also steals the clothes of the gopis, He steals the reactions of millions and thousands of births, right? To that, number one of thieves, it's chauragraganya, means if you put all the thieves in a line, right, and you counted which was the best, agraganya means Krishna's name would come first, right? If you put them on a long list and you wanted most wanted, Krishna's name would be there because he's the biggest thief, right? Chauragraganya, to that, first among thieves, I offer my obeisances. Because he steals the reactions of millions of thousands of births. Unending births, and we are in this material world trying to enjoy, trying to create, some facility for ourselves. And all that karma he burns in a second when you surrender to him. So to that, chauragraganyam purusham namami. To that first and topmost of thieves, I offer my obeisances. So this is being described by Lord Brahma as well. That the Lord burns up all the reactions. So how do we create this burning? How do we create this ending of our karma cycle? Krishna says by offering what you do to me. And there's processes, right? There's steps. In Bhagavad Gita, there's steps to be taken. First one, right? We understand that we must offer everything to Krishna, but we still are attached. Shri Nrsimhadev Bhagwan Ki Jai. We are still attached to the result of our activities. And so we perform our activities, but we offer the results to Krishna. We offer what we do to Krishna. I like lasagna. I cook lasagna, but I offer it to Krishna, right? Who are you actually making the lasagna for? You're making it for yourself, but you offer it to Krishna. So this is the first step. It's good, but it's the first step, right? It's like, for example, let's say someone comes to my birthday. I'm allergic to some nuts, and they make a cake with those nuts because they like it. And they say, here, I give you this beautiful cake on your birthday. And I say, wow, thank you so much, but I can't eat it. He says, okay, I'll eat it, no problem. Right? Who is he actually making the cake for? He's not making it for me. He just wants the credit, right? So this is good. Yeah, I will appreciate the endeavor he went into to make the cake, but it would have been better if he found out that I'm allergic to those nuts. And I can't eat the cake, right? So we should find out what the Lord likes and find out what he likes to eat and what he likes to do and how he likes to dress and how he likes to sleep and how he likes to do everything, and then start doing things according to how he likes and accepting the real remnants, the real offerings, right? Because we're doing it actually for his pleasure, not because we want it and we're simply, you take it first, basically you're saying. You can have the first bite, but I want the rest, right? So to change this mentality that it's not about us, this is the process of devotional service. And it may take us hundreds of years or lifetimes to get there, to stop desiring the fruits of our activities, even though we're engaged in devotional service. But the more we're able to purify ourselves, the faster this will happen. That we stop thinking in line with our desires and start thinking in line with the Lord's desires. Right? And the way how we do that is by understanding that whatever we do in this material world and everything we're doing in Krishna consciousness, unless it's helping us progress in our devotional service, we should give it up. All right? There's this Marie Kondo, I think her name is. She created this style of cleansing your house, that you look at every object in your house, and if it brings you pleasure and enriches your life, you keep it. If it doesn't, you throw it away. Right? People have a problem with hoarding nowadays because of the consumerism mentality, right? They want every furniture they see. They want every phone they see. And people have stacks of old phones in their house just sitting collecting dust, right? And so she created this system that you look at an object, you say, does it bring me happiness? Does it bring me, enrich my life in some way? If not, you give it up. We need to start doing this with our actions in Krishna consciousness. Does this benefit my Krishna consciousness in some way? How is it benefiting my Krishna consciousness? And if it's not, give up the activity. Give up that action that you're performing. Right? It might be anything material. You like to go on a morning walk. How is this? I'm chanting. Very wonderful. Even if you're doing exercise, it helps me focus my mind. It gets rid of that extra energy, and I'm able to stay more focused. I'm able to be stronger for my service. Even in a small way, it's still beneficial. It will help you get there. But if there's something that's not enriching your devotional life in any way, shape, or form, you should give it up. Then slowly in that process, we'll be able to improve our actions and improve what we're performing. And then we'll be able to actually perform it for the Lord's pleasure and not because we want to. In this connection, there's a wonderful story of an alvar. Has anyone here heard of the alvars? Of course, right? There's 8 alvars in the Madhva Sampradaya, no? Madhva Sampradaya, right? And they're considered great devotees. It's like Mahajans. Ramanuja Sampradaya, no? Yeah, Tirupati's Ramanuja Sampradaya, yeah, right? And they're great devotees who have come in the line, and they all left very wonderful literature and very wonderful pastimes and so many things that we can learn from. There was one of them whose name was Tirumangai or Mangalai, depending how you pronounce, right? He was a dacoit. He was a very infamous dacoit, very powerful dacoit. Dacoits you don't have so much here, but you can say like mafia bosses, right? But they kill for fun. So it's a little bit more, right? They don't only steal, they'll kill you, then steal. It's taking a step further. And so this Tirumangai, he was so powerful and so influential. He had many thousands of dacoits working for him. But one day he was taking a bath in the river and he saw this most beautiful lady. And in some places it's described that she was an Apsara, and other places it's described that she was the daughter of a Vaishnava. They're both equally, right? And so he completely fed head over heels for her. He was just enamored with her 100%. And so he approached her and said, my dear lady, I want you as my wife. I want to enjoy with you, What do I have to do, basically? Like, how can I get your heart? And so this beautiful girl, she said that I cannot be with you in your current state. You're so sinful. You have to purify yourself. You have to cleanse yourself of these reactions. And so he said, sure, how do I do that? And he said, you have to wash the feet of over, I think it was 1,000 in the beginning, but 10,000 feet of Vaishnavas and feed them, right? She didn't give any more purport to her instructions. So the dacoit, right, he decided to do it in his way. So he would go to the villages and kidnap brahmanas in the thousands and sit them down, forcefully wash their feet and feed them and send them on their way. And he would do that nonstop in batches, And people were running far and wide, and he had to send his armies to other villages and other cities to capture brahmanas to wash their feet. And he would drink that water that he washed their feet. And like that, day by day, he was becoming purified. And little by little, he stopped, let's say, beating them. He would just catch them. And then after that, he would ask them nicely. So step by step, he was getting more and more, how would I say, kind in his Vaishnav Seva, right? Instead of force feeding, he would make a nice place for them to sit. You can imagine what kind of things he was doing. But little by little, he created a big pavilion, a big mandal, and brahmanas were coming on their own to take part in this great, great festival he was performing every day. So then, but still being a dacoit, to be able to fund this feeding of 10,000 brahmanas a day, he would still steal, right? He would go and he would steal the money to be able to pay for this Vaishnav Seva that was happening every day. So one day, it so happened that he was on the road and he was looking for a next victim to steal from. And he saw a bridal procession, a wife and a husband coming from the wedding, coming on the chariot. And that was the best, because after a wedding, the bride is decked out with gold and the husband has all this beautiful jewelry. So definitely they have even the dowry in the chariot, all the money they got from their wedding. So this is going to be a good catch. So he stopped the chariot and he said, give me everything or else, the classic line. And the couple readily agreed. They said, yeah, for sure. So they started taking off all their jewelry and giving it to him. And on the toe ring of the bride, on the toe, there was one ring that wouldn't come off, and it was the beautiful stone, right? And it was effulgent, and so it didn't come off, and she was trying to take it off. It wasn't coming off, so he asked to help, and as soon as he touched the feet of the bride, he went into ecstasy. And he saw Lakshmi Narayan there in the chariot. It was Lakshmi Narayan that came in the form of a bride and groom, and by touching the feet of Lakshmi Devi, he got full love of God. And he wrote a beautiful poem, right? And this is the first line of a very, very long poem. He says, I became a thief, deceitful and dishonest. I wandered hither and thither, yet light never dawned on me. I reached your feet, and instantly your grace fell upon me. With melting heart and a choked voice, your praise I sing. Bathed in streams of tears, I repeat day and night the sacred name of Narayana. Right? So he achieved the pure love of God through Vaishnav Seva. In the beginning, it was horrible, his mannerisms, the way he was doing it, but he kept at it and he became purified. Such to the point that beyond this girl, he achieved Lakshmi Narayan. Right? And even after he became an Alvar, there's actually pastimes that he would steal from the invaders, he would steal from different Buddhist temples, because at that time it was after Buddha came, right? And so they previously destroyed many temples and used the gold to make monasteries. And so he, even as an Alvar, he would go and take the gold back and make it back into temples. So the Srirangam Gopura, I don't know if you've seen, that's pure gold, right? The whole dome is pure gold. That was donated by this Alvar. Well, donated. It's a nice word, but it was procured by this Alvar. So he's a very great devotee. And we can understand through his example, right, what he had to go through and how his process, he started in the first steps. He didn't know why he was doing it. I mean, he knew why he was doing it. He just wanted to purify himself for this girl. But what he was doing was devotional service. And so if we have some other intentions and we have some other desires, we still should perform our devotional service and offer everything to the Lord. And then in that way, gradually we can become purified to the point where we one day go to Nrsingadev and say, Nrsingadev, what do you want to eat today? What would you like to have? Right? And maybe, Prabhupada says, right, one day Nrsingadev will answer us. Prabhupada in the installation ceremony, I think of London Ishwara, no, I think. Prabhupada said, if you worship these deities, right, with love and devotion, one day these deities will speak to you. Not through an ethereal voice in the sky, not through, in your dreams. No, these deities, physical deities, will speak to you. Right? And there's another story with Satyanananda Maharaj, where a few months after he joined the temple, he was given the service of washing the deities' plates every day. And his family was saying that you're brainwashed and you're in Maya, but you're in a cult, right? And they were pressuring him so strongly to leave the temple and come back to material life. And this was like in his head, and as he was washing the dishes, he was thinking of all these different things. And so he was very disturbed for a few days. And during that time, Srila Prabhupada came back to Germany to the temple. And Prabhupada, after the Mangalarti, he mentioned to the temple president, he said that the Krishna's plates aren't being cleaned properly. After Mangalarti, right? It wasn't like he was there during the offering or he even saw the plate. He said Krishna's plates aren't being cleaned properly. They're not being washed properly. And so the temple president came to Satyanananda Maharaj, who was a bhakta at that time, and said, Prabhupada said that Krishna's plates aren't being cleaned properly. And so Satyanananda Maharaj was thinking that only Prabhupada, right, only Krishna could have told Prabhupada that his plates aren't being cleaned properly, because who else would know? Right? So Prabhupada came for Mangalarti, and the Lord informed him that my plates are dirty, please do something about it. Right? So Satyananda Maharaj was so enlivened and his faith was so strengthened by hearing that pastime that he started washing the plates a little bit more carefully and making sure there wasn't food left on it. So what Prabhupada says is true. If you're able to serve these deities with love and devotion, these very deities one day will speak to you. So one day they'll tell you, today I would like to have malpuas, today I would like to have sweet rice today. And how wonderful that would be. But we can only get there if we start asking, if we start inquiring, if we start endeavoring. Right? There's the whole Boga Arti song. It's full of preparations. We can start cooking those preparations to start with. And like that, gradually, we would get to the point of doing things for his pleasure, not for us. I always give examples of cooking because that's what I know. They say what you know, so that's what I say. But it's with everything else. You want to take care of devotees? How does the Lord take care of his devotees? How does previous acharyas take care of their disciples? How can we do that in a better way? And take example in that way. And do it to the Lord's pleasure. They please the Lord by doing their service. They must have been doing something right. Let's copy that. Let's imitate that wholeheartedly. Yeah? And then in that way we can get there. So I also thought today would be befitting to speak a little bit about Gopalbhatta Goswami because tomorrow is his disappearance day. But Gopigita Maharaj is here. I wanted to ask, are you going to speak tomorrow a little bit about him? Oh, okay, so I'll speak a little bit about him. Okay, so first of all, Gopalbhatta Goswami ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Raman ki jai. So I'm sure we know Gopalbhatta Goswami. He is one of our 6 Goswamis, right? One of our main Shiksha Gurus throughout our line who gives the mood and the direction in our devotional service. Tomorrow is his disappearance day, so it's a great opportunity for us to glorify him, to inquire about him, to hear about him, and learn from his lifetime and what he did to please the Lord. So Gopalbhatta Goswami first met Mahaprabhu when Mahaprabhu was doing his South Indian yatra, when he was traveling through South India. He stayed in the house of Venkatabhatta, Gopalbhatta Goswami's father. And at that time, Gopalbhatta, I'll just say Gopal, was only 5 years old when Mahaprabhu came, first time to his house. And it's described that, in Bhakti Ratnakar, I think it's described that Mahaprabhu used to put Gopal on his lap and feed him the remnants from his plate. Would joke with Gopal, would talk with Gopal, would spend so much time with Gopal when he was there at 5 years old, right? And so at that age, Mahaprabhu stayed with them for 4 months during rainy season. And Gopalbhatta Goswami became so attached to Mahaprabhu. So when it came time for Mahaprabhu to leave, Mahaprabhu told him that you stay with your parents, because he wanted to go with Mahaprabhu at 5 years old. He was like, forget home, I'm going with you, right? But Mahaprabhu instructed him that stay, you're the youngest of the brothers, take care of your parents, and when they leave this world, then you can come and find me, then you can come and be with me. So he stayed for 30 years. It was at the age of 35 when his parents left this world. His parents, of course, were great devotees and went back to Godhead. But it was at the age of 35 when finally Gopalbhatta Goswami was able to go to Vrindavan. And when he got to Vrindavan, of course, the Goswamis were already informed about him. Mahaprabhu must have told Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami about this boy Gopal who will come one day. And when he arrived, he was sad to hear that Mahaprabhu wasn't there. But Mahaprabhu, upon hearing that Gopalbhatta Goswami arrived in Vrindavan, he sent his choki, means his asana, like a wooden seat that they use. He sent a chadar and a uttariya of Mahaprabhu to Gopalbhatta Goswami. So Gopalbhatta Goswami would worship that on his altar, his chadar. And he would sit on the asana when he performed his worship. Right? So it was very, very, you can imagine receiving something like that from Mahaprabhu, how special it was. And so after some time, he started having dreams of Krishna, of the Lord, saying, if you want to take my darshan, come to Kaligandaki, come to Nepal, where the river of the Shalagram Shilas are. So he, one day, getting permission from the other Goswamis, he went to Kaligandaki, and when he was taking bath, it was many months and months of walking in the mountains. But when he arrived there and he was taking bath in Kaligandaki, he filled up his lota, means his pot, for taking bath, and inside there were 8 shilas. 8 shalagram shilas were inside the water. I heard 8 and I heard 12. I heard both. But it was a few. It was either 8 or 12, they say. And so he poured them back out respectfully and again tried to take water to take bath. And then again, the 12 shilas were inside. Right? And so he poured them out again, and he tried to take water again, and they were still inside. So then he took it as the Lord's desire that he wants to come with. So he took those shalagram shilas, put them nicely in a cloth, and came back to Vrindavan. And wherever he would go, he would have this bundle of 12 shilas, this tied cloth with 12 shilas. Wherever he would go, and he would continue his worship. Wherever he would sleep that day, he would continue his worship. And of course, Gopalbhatta Goswami, being raised in such an exalted family of Sri Vaishnava Brahmanas, he was expert in all features of worship, deity worship, and all the Vedas, all the Sastras. And so his standard of worship was extremely high, right? Even though he had shalagram shilas and he wasn't able to dress them like we do in Nrsingadev or ornament them and do all the different physical parts, he was performing such a high level of worship with meaning, with love, with mantra, that he started developing a desire to also worship the Lord as all the other Goswamis did, because being one of the younger ones, Jiva Goswami had already had Radha Damodar, Sanatana Goswami had found Madan Mohanji long time ago, Rupa Goswami, Govindaji, so they all had their temples, they had their deities, their temples weren't built yet, but they were performing full worship, dressing, putting to sleep, feeding, all the different worship they were able to do to their deity in a very beautiful form. And so he started having this desire to worship the deity in a deity form, not in a shalagram. Right? So on the day of Nrsimha Chaturdasi, when after all the festivities were there and happened, one Brahmana approached the Gopalbhatta Goswami and gave him some beautiful fabric cloth for making clothes for the deities and some beautiful ornaments. And Gopalbhatta Goswami received them and said, I can't use these on my shalagram, please give it to another Goswami. And the Brahmana said, no, I have given it to you. What you do with it is your choice, but it's yours. I'm not going to take it back. And so Gopalbhatta Goswami kept those ornaments in cloth, and he was thinking, how wonderful it would be to have a deity to dress, to ornament. And so in this way, he was thinking, and he fell asleep, also thinking in connection with the Nrsingadev Leela, how Nrsingadev came out of a pillar to please Prahlad, to serve Prahlad, to fulfill Prahlad's desires. And so in the same way, he was thinking about that Leela and how wonderful it would be to worship the Lord in deity form. And the next day when he woke up, lo and behold, amongst his 12 shilas, there were only 11 shilas, and one of the shilas opened up, and a beautiful form of Krishna came. He's like this big, Radharamanji, right? And so seeing this, of course, he was extremely happy. He began worshiping Krishna in this beautiful form as Radharaman, playing his flute. And Radharamanji is so perfect He even has fingernails. He has like this space where his fingernails are perfect. He has teeth, right? Every part of his body is exactly as Krishna is because he self-manifested, right? They say that the other three deities, they were directed by Vajranabh, the great-grandson of Krishna. And when they were inspected by Uttara, who was the last person on earth who was seen Krishna face to face, she said that Govindaji has the chest of Krishna. His middle section is exactly like Krishna. And then Gopinathji has the face, Gopinath's feet, I think. Gopinath's feet are exactly like Krishna. And Madan Mohanji's face is exactly like Krishna. And so in that way, there were the three deities, they say, if you see the three deities in the same day, then you've seen Krishna that day, because you saw the three parts, right? But Radharamanji, they say, is 100% Krishna. One to one, exactly the same. And so Radharamanji, he was being worshipped by Gopa Bhatta Goswami for many, many years. And on that same trip, when he was going to get his Shilas in Kaligandaki, he met a Brahmin family near Haridwar. And this Brahmin family had a child, I think he was only a few years old, and they were so touched with Gopa Bhatta Goswami's demeanor and who he was and how he was, that they said, when this child grows up, he will come and serve you in Vrindavan. And so he heard that, but he didn't really take it seriously. But one day when he was coming back from the Yamuna, on his doorstep there was this boy. And the boy immediately paid obeisances to Gopa Bhatta Goswami and said, "My name is Gopinath, I come from Haridwar and I'm here to serve you." And Gopa Bhatta Goswami, being very impressed and admiring the resolve of this child, he took him in and he trained him in all the different ways of devotional service and how they worship the deities. And so Gopinath, he worshipped Radharamanji for the rest of his life. He never got married. And Gopinath's younger brother, I forgot his name, I think it was Ananta, right? He had three brothers, and he initiated them all, and they continued on with the worship. And their descendants are the Goswamis that are now taking care of Radharamanji, the descendants of Gopinath's brothers. Gopinath himself never took a wife, but his brothers had children and families, and so like that, they're continuing the worship. Very beautiful worship of Radharamanji. And if you ever get the chance to go to Vrindavan, please take darshan of Radharaman. He's a beautiful, beautiful temple. And to this day, their standards of worship are considered the highest. In a few different instances, Prabhupada, he told his disciples that if you need any advice and you need any direction, you should go to the temple of Radharaman to get instruction, because their standards of worship are so high. There's not much other information about Gopa Bhatta Goswami, because out of his humility, he instructed Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to not mention him in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Before writing Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he asked blessings from all the other Goswamis. And Gopa Bhatta Goswami, out of his humility, he requested him to please not mention him. So there's only one or two places he's described simply as a Goswami, but not much else is given. But very fortunate, we have Narhari Chakravarti, he wrote about him in Bhakti Ratnakar. So we have a little bit of information. But of course, we can always go see Radharamanji, and then we'll be able to see. They say you see the master, you know the servant, you see the servant, you know the master. So if you see the master, then you know who Gopa Bhatta Goswami was. So tomorrow is his disappearance day. So you can read a lot more about him. These pastimes are there in great more detail. But it's a wonderful day to think about him and learn from his life, what he was and who he was. So Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami ki, Sri Radharamanji ki jai. Oh, one other pastime on Radharaman. If you go on Snanyatra to Radharaman, they bathe the deity first, full abhishek, but then they have sprinklers in the ceiling, and they bathe everyone with full abhishek. You get in Vrindavan and Snanyatra is like 40 degrees, 42, 45 degrees. And so Radharamanji, he takes Snanyatra along with his devotees. So if you go there on that day, take something you don't mind getting wet, but it's a beautiful darshan. You get to be there during Snanyatra. And also Janmashtami and Brahmotsava, but it's always beautiful there. But Snanyatra should be on your transcendental bucket list to see Snanyatra there. Yes. there's a few different, but they do after Brahmotsava, they do a few days of festival where he's out. But also for almost all big festivals, they bring him out, and he's very close. All the Abhisheks, he's right there. Julan Yatra, they bring him out. But yeah, I don't know exactly which one you mean, but he's there. Yeah, he's small, so it's difficult to see. So close, yeah. Also, if you go for Mangalarti in the summer, they dress him just in a single pearl beads, like a baby. You know, he just has like a kopin on, nothing else. And so you see his beautiful form. I mean, online you can see daily darshan pictures, but in person it's something else. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu. Oh, yeah. Hari Bhakti Vilas. Sanatana Goswami wrote, but he wrote another commentary on it. Sakriya Saradipika. Vrindavan Karnamrita. I forgot the last word. But yeah, many books all on the rules and regulations of deity worship and how it should be performed. Yes, bro.
To some extent, thank you. To some extent, if we don't agree with the things given to us or happening to us, to that degree, we have an atheistic mentality still in our hearts, and that's very, very hard to admit, because it goes like mostly, I mean, we never complain if something good happens to us. Well, I don't deserve that. I mean, we say it out of humility, but actually we think it's all good. But if something bad happens to us, somebody mistreating us, or we feel mistreated, even in Vaishnava Sangha, then we immediately have to take action and make steps to at least set the record straight or whatever. You know, we have to kind of defend ourselves, and this of course is sometimes bewildering, because we think, in one sense, I have to stand up, and especially when somebody else getting, you know, what we think mistreated or whatever, then it's sort of our duty also to stand up. But what would happen if we would accept everything as it is, even to others? Well, you know, elements of devotee care would be immediately out of place. So what would be a practical applyment of that rule, that everything is under Krishna's control, everything what happens to us is not, and we would not see it as punishment, we would see it as a sign to think of, okay, what the Lord want to tell me, what I have to learn in this situation, how would it look practically?
Wonderful question, Prabhu. I think there's two parts of this. It's kind of like never forget Krishna, always remember him too, the positive and the negative. The positive side would be to train yourself in thinking about the Lord and how he's directing, and his hand is in your life, like how he is directing everything that happens. So when something bad happens, to immediately think, what did I do to deserve this? Like, not in a negative way, but like, what is the Lord teaching me? What is he showing me in this way? And my father, he always would point out, good or bad, he would say, this happened because of this. He'd say, look what Krishna, how merciful he is, that he's doing this. I can give you an instance that we moved away from Mayapur back in like 2011. We decided to go for a year, but then the situation was nice, and we're doing some preaching, and we kind of got comfortable a little bit, and so we decided to stay there much longer term. And as soon as we made this decision, before like really getting a house and all that, we decided to go to the beach for a week to, have a little vacation. And on the second day we were there, I bugged my father to take us to a water park. Like, really, like, let's go for a water park, let's go to a water park. And so we got there, we jumped, I climbed up, and my mom went with me, and we went in one of those 2-people tubes, and we went down really fast, and in one corner we flipped, and my mom hit her head really hard, the side of her head, bam! And she kind of just slid the whole way down, and when she got to the bottom, she forgot where we were, she didn't know what year it was, she didn't remember any, like, immediate amnesia, like, and she just kept on asking, like, where are we? We were in Ecuador, and she was like, why are we in Ecuador? We were just in India, like, whole 1 year that we were out of Mayapur was gone. She thought we were in Calcutta somewhere. And then every time we would tell her that, no, we moved away from Mayapur and we sold our apartment, she would be like, what? Why did we leave Mayapur? Why did we sell our apartment? And then 5 minutes would pass and we'd have to explain it again, and the same message, just, why did you leave Mayapur? Why aren't the boys studying? Why, like the same thing over and over again. And so we got in the car, packed up in seconds, and drove full speed to the closest city to go to hospital. But the whole 1.5-hour drive was just nonstop. Why did you leave Mayapur? Why this? Why that? And so when we got there, we went to the hospital just for a checkup, because by the time we were getting close to the city, she started being able to remember things again. Little by little, like instead of 5 minutes, it was 10, 15 minutes. It started but that 1 year was just, really hazy. And so we went for a checkup, but then we ended up just going to a hotel, and just during the night, we're talking to her, trying to get her to remember things again. And, but my father was just so shocked by that instance. We had a family meeting, and he was like, we're going back. We're going back, 100%. We sold the car, closed the lease on the apartment, and within a month and a half, we were on our way back. No, even less, a few weeks. We were on our way back to Mayapur. Within a month and a half, I was back in Gurukul. That's how it went. So my father took that very serious, sometimes you can think sad, and pointed out Krishna is showing us something here, right? And that happens so many times. Car crash, Krishna is showing us something here. We're not supposed to be here, right? Money gets stolen, Krishna is showing us. We're not being careful. Krishna is showing us this is not the place, right? Something we're doing is wrong. And every time just drilling that point in. And so now I kick my toe, and the first thing I ask, what did I do? What did I do? Like, what was I thinking? And 8 times out of 10, I can connect it. Sometimes it comes into my mind, what do I do? But I don't pay enough attention to actually think back and think what I did wrong. But then also on the good side, when something good would happen to us, he would also point out. And so I try as much as possible when something good happens to think, wow, that's Krishna's arrangement. For example, we were in Ecuador, and my wife's visa was finishing. We didn't know what's happening next. I didn't really have a job or anything. And just at the point where we didn't know what else to do, Govindadev sends me a message. We need you in Simhachalam. Within 1 month, I had my ticket. Within 2 months, I'm here in this beautiful apartment doing my service. It's like that. And so Krishna fulfills your desires and sorts out your life 100%. I can think no, this is my arrangement, my qualifications, No, but because of training your mind to think in a certain way, you really believe, no, this is Krishna's direction, this is Krishna's hand. And it's not being egoistic, right? Sometimes devotees will ask, but if you think that Krishna is dealing with you on such a personal level, then you think you're such a great devotee. No, Krishna's there anyway. He's all powerful. Does that mean that just he can only deal with a certain people at a time? He can't deal with all millions and billions of entities? Everyone can be dealt with on a very personal level, just that we're too blind and covered with our ignorance to be able to see his actions. So that would be the positive side, training yourself. And the other side would be to amanina manadena, to never think about yourself. So when you're being offended, to train yourself in the amanina part. But if you see someone else being offended, then you're defending them to all, heaven come. Then no, right? Don't treat him that way. So if we create a community where you're not thinking about yourself but defending everyone else, you will be taken care of. Everyone will be taken care of. Justice will come because someone else will stand up for you because you've trained in that way, right? So it's is actually funny. In Gurukul, I was #1 defend guy. Like, anyone said anything about me, I would put out my little knife and be like, no, it wasn't my fault. It was this and that, And they started making jokes that God gave me the 10 excuses, right? Instead of 10 commandments, the 10 excuses I had. And so they would always remind me to don't make excuses for yourself, make excuses for someone else, right? So this is something that whenever someone criticizes me, those jokes come in my head, the 10 excuses, your excuse man, and different stuff like that. So you should, you try not defend yourself and try not criticize someone else in return, or try find justice for what can't happen to you wrong. And think about, what is God trying to teach me? What is the Lord trying to teach me? And someone else will stand up for you. And even if they don't, that's not your business.
This just came in my head, that this actually, it's a beautiful way to start communication with Krishna, as you said earlier, that in this lifetime you will speak with Krishna, but for this we have to keep the conversation going, and these little things. I also think that Krishna communicates with you through whatever medium you use. Some people, they use books. They have a question, they're opening a book, they read the answer. And some people, they're looking for such little details in their life. And if Krishna knows, that's the medium, he is careful, he tries to communicate with me, then he starts this communication through this channel. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, whatever, he'll give you the lesson perfect for what you need and how you can understand it. Yeah, absolutely, Prabhu. Yes.
But sometimes as devotees, it can also be that something happens, it's Krishna's arrangement. I give an example. So one Mataji was due to come here, but she was quite sick, and it seemed that she may have had corona. And she would come to stay in the ashram. So she was wanting to come here, and then she said, okay, I'll see if it's Krishna's arrangement if I get this ride. And then I called in and said, Mataji, how long have you been sick for? And it was like just a week. I said, please, we have enough Mataji sick in the ashram. Just please wait another week, until you're better. You're still sick. Just do it. She's like, well, I was seeing if it was Krishna's arrangement with this one. I said, yeah, I'm sorry. And I don't know if I'm Krishna's arrangement or not at this moment. But I'm just saying I have to protect the ladies as well as yourself. There's no point in you traveling when you still feel sick and la, la, la. So I was a bit confused. I didn't want to mess with Krishna's arrangement. But there I came. So I get a bit confused, because sometimes the devotees can be like, oh, there's Krishna's arrangement. And you're like, oh my God, that doesn't sound very wise sometimes.
Absolutely. We actually, in the purport, it talks about this earlier, how we cannot change our destiny, and whatever is going to happen to us happens due to Krishna's arrangement, right? It happens because of his arrangement and due to our karma. But that doesn't mean, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that we don't do anything about it, right? It's like I get sick, and I say, if Krishna wants, I'll get better. If Krishna doesn't want, I won't get better. Does that mean I don't go to the doctor? I don't get medicine? I don't put a chadar on? I don't drink some hot tea? No, I have to do whatever I can to get better, but ultimately it's Krishna's arrangement, whether I'm supposed to die from a cold or from a splinter or, from a car crash. It's Krishna's arrangement, but I'm still going to look both ways when I cross the road. I'm not just going to duck and run, So in this way, Krishna's arrangement, sometimes we can't just be like, okay, I'm going to flip a coin, and if it lands on heads, it's Krishna's arrangement. No, it doesn't work like that. Krishna teaches us in a way that he wants. We can't demand that you teach me in this way or that way. It doesn't work like that. And your duty is to take care of the ashram, and so is your duty, Krishna's arrangement, that you intervened. Otherwise, how many more Matajis would have gotten sick? And she might have gotten more sick in traveling. So in that way, I don't think, we cannot feel ourselves so powerful that we can change the will of God. We cannot. There's no way that we can do that. We can only deal in things that relate to us and how we react to whatever happens to us. That's how we create further or karma or not. So definitely Mataji, I don't think we need to worry about that. But it's kind of like these two things. Krishna's arrangement and Yukta Vairagya are the most abused principles in Krishna consciousness. It's Krishna's arrangement. I burnt the sabji, Krishna's arrangement, I broke the conch shell, Krishna's arrangement. No. This is my new motorbike, Yukta Vairagya. I'm using in Krishna's service. Then why do you get the Kawasaki Ninja? You could have built a temple with that money. No. It's Krishna. I need the motorbike to drive from Yandasbrun to the temple, and I have to get there in 0.00 seconds. Oh. Anyway, went a little bit off track there. But It's definitely, as you said, Mataji, sometimes we just say Krishna's arrangement. But as Arjuna did, he still was fighting the battle like if his life depended on it. Right? He was still fighting with all, he had Krishna there as his chariot driver, knowing that Krishna is taking care of everything. But he fought with such determination and such, skill that if he was performing the activity, and that was after just hearing Bhagavad Gita, right? Back to front. So he's the perfect example of acting in duty but giving the results for Krishna. Right? He did such a wonderful job, we can say, and he had such skill and such power and such determination, getting shot at and everything and continuing your service. I'm sure he put medicine too. In the evening after he got shot, pulled out the arrow, put medicine. It's Krishna's arrangement, it will heal if it wants to. No, he needs to do his service the next day, so he needs to put medicine, stitch the wounds, put his armor on properly. It's Krishna's arrangement, right?
Sometimes I wonder how they did this in the even after the battle. They have to eat, they have to somehow eat something, they have to sleep, they have to take care of all the wounds.
It was described that even generals from the other side would come and eat together. Like they would have dinners and buffets together after the evening of the battle, because some people hated each other's guts and would never want to see each other, but other people were just on the other side because of politics and alignments. So there's many people on the Kaurava side who liked the Pandavas very much, and so they would eat together in the evening, just eat together, have a nice talk, Krishna consciousness probably, or did you see that arrow, and did you see that javelin? But the next day again, so yeah, it's pretty far out. We were actually earlier in this chapter when Dhruva Maharaj is shooting the yakshas, they're applauding him, right? They're saying, "Wow, that was so cool." Right? They're on the enemy side getting shot at and dying, but they're like, wow, and they're praising him, vocally praising him, not just mentally praising him. So yeah, pretty interesting. Nice shot, yeah. For them, it's a whole other level. Yes, Prabhu. There's one question here in the middle. Could we have their microphone?
Thank you so much for the lesson. I enjoyed it a lot. I have just a really small question about the karmic system. So I was wondering if it's one person's karma to become a devotee, because you made
wonderful question.
Like a differentiation there, and I think I have still some lack of understanding.
Thank you. I missed out a whole part of my lecture not speaking about this point. Yes. So there is nothing, it's described, there's nothing that one can do, even the most pious activities or yagyas that you can perform, to be able to merit, to deserve becoming a devotee, to deserve someone coming up to you and giving you a Bhagavatam, to giving you a book and saying, come to the temple, let's chant Krishna together, Krishna's name together. There's nothing one can do. This is causeless mercy of the Lord and the Vaishnavas. Right? It's like winning the lottery. You didn't deserve it. You bought one euro ticket. Why do you deserve $1 million and not someone else? There's nothing. It's causeless mercy. So it's the Lord's causeless mercy, and it's the Vaishnava's causeless mercy that he's on the road somewhere in Passau. Where did you hear about us from, the Krishna consciousness?
Zurich.
Zurich, right? You were on the street in Zurich and someone approached you with the book? Exactly. Right? It's that devotee's endeavor that he gave you that great fortune. Understand? So it's his causeless mercy. Hearing about Krishna and anything to do with Krishna is not something that can be, earned. It's something that's bestowed upon us by causeless mercy. And the only thing that we can do is, in many cases, is we're searching for something higher, right? Some people are searching for God, and they go looking, and by causeless mercy, they come in contact with a devotee, right? Someone is very sad in their life, they're depressed, and they're going through something difficult, and boom, a devotee shows up in their life, right? But we have to understand our great fortune and try to share it, and also take advantage of what we have. You get $1 million in the lottery, don't go, waste it in one night gambling. Use it in the proper way. So in the same way we have Krishna consciousness, we have to use it and take full advantage and do it sincerely. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Yeah, and also the whole point with karma, once we surrender to Krishna and we give up the reactions for our activities and we fully surrender, Krishna takes full responsibility. That doesn't mean that the surrendered devotee doesn't go through problems, right? Devotees get sick, devotees get hurt, devotees die, devotees have good things happen in their life. This is all fully under the direction of Krishna. Once you come in contact with Krishna consciousness and you're surrendered to the process, Krishna takes full. And you can imagine like you're in a school and you're getting lessons. For one person, he might have to suffer in a certain way for him to give up the attachment to something he has in this world. And for another person, it's very simple life, and he's able to fully dedicate himself to chanting. So every individual devotee has a different way that they're going to learn that this material world, we don't want to be here, and we want to go back. So, but Krishna is the teacher, and Krishna is directing. So it's no longer that your karma in that way. Krishna will minimize your karma and give you only how much you need to learn what you need to learn. You were supposed to, by karma's arrangement, you were supposed to lose your arm. Instead, you get a small cut, cutting sabjis in the kitchen. Right? And you say, thank you, Krishna, for not, for teaching me the lesson. So Krishna minimizes your karma and makes it just how much you need so that you can understand and continue with your devotional life. He's the teacher, and he's giving you exactly what you need. Both enjoyment and suffering. Enough enjoyment, but not too much that you become distracted and you don't want to be a devotee anymore. Right? Just enough. It's a wonderful process. Very simple. Yes, Kavish. Sorry, we're going over time.
You told that there were 12 Shilas and one of the Shila became Radharamanji. So what happened with the other 11?
They're still there in the temple.
Ah, okay.
They're still there being worshipped. Yeah, there's quite a few Shilas. They have more now also from other Goswamis and other great devotees. But Gopabhata Goswami's Shilas, I think most of them are there. A few of them went to other very predominant temples in Vrindavan. But they're still being worshipped. The Damodar Shila, yeah. He had one Damodar Shila, and that one is the one who opened into Radharaman. And But the other ones are still there. They're still being worshipped. Okay, we'll finish here. Sorry for going over time. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Sri Gopabhatta Goswami ki, Sri Radharaman ki, Jai Nitai, Gaur Premanandi.